Hello everyone, and welcome to JK Halftime. And in today's video, we will be breaking down 5 NBA trades that need to happen before the trade deadline day is over. So let's get into it. First thing that should happen until the trade deadline day is over, in my opinion, is that the Timberwolves need to trade DAngelo Russell for a more pass-first type of point guard. Because I think D'Lo doesn't fit in well with Karl Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards. One of the trades that could be great is Mike Conley and Rudy Gay to the Timberwolves in exchange for DAngelo Russell, plus a draft pick or two. As I see it, this trade would be absolutely amazing for Minnesota, because they would be adding a great floor general, Mike Conley, and a very valuable role player, Rudy Gay. Plus, the experience that comes with these two players would be vital to Minnesota. On the other hand, the Jazz would get Russell, which might help them make the playoffs this season. And if they don't like him, this deal expires after the season anyway, so that'll free up some cap space for the rebuilding Utah Jazz. However, the competition for a trade to get Mike Conley is very high, as many teams are interested in trading for Mike Conley. Now, the next trade I could see happening is the Phoenix Suns sending Jay Crowder and Landry Shamet to the Cavs in exchange for Caris LeVert. In my opinion, this would be a great trade for both teams, because Crowder provides much-needed playoff experience to the young Cavs team. He can play great on defense, and he doesn't need the ball to be effective on offense, as the Cavs already have two exceptional creators in Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. Landry Shamet is also a good addition for the Cavs, as it makes their lineup deeper. However, Phoenix gets rid of Crowder, as he is not happy being there, and in exchange, they get a great all-around player who can create shots offensively for himself and his teammates, which is exactly what the Suns need from their bench. This trade is the definition of a win-win in my opinion. Now, the next trade that just needs to happen is between the Atlanta Hawks and the Washington Wizards. In this trade, Washington gets John Collins, and in exchange for Collins, Atlanta gets Kyle Kuzma and Will Barton. In my opinion, this is a great trade for both teams, because the Wizards get a young player who is very good already, and he still has some room to grow. Also, the Wizards get rid of some expiring contracts, as it doesn't look like Kuzma would activate his player option to stay in Washington. On the other hand, Atlanta gets rid of a player that just doesn't fit in with their game plan, and in exchange, they get two great scorers, Kuzma and Barton. This will definitely help Atlanta win some games and make the playoffs. Also, I think there is a high chance that Kuzma would activate his player option or sign a new contract with the Atlanta Hawks. Now, the next trade that needs to happen is a huge one. In this 3-team trade between the Nets, Pistons, and the Hornets, Brooklyn gets Bogdanovic from Detroit and Plumlee from Charlotte. Charlotte gets Royce O'Neal from Brooklyn, plus Killian Hayes and Isaiah Stewart from Detroit. And Detroit gets Joe Harris and Cam Thomas from Brooklyn, plus PJ Washington from Charlotte. Also, some draft picks should be added in the trade from Brooklyn to Detroit and Charlotte. This trade would be a huge win for the Brooklyn Nets and their hopes of winning a championship, because they would be getting a great center, Mason Plumlee, which is what they desperately need, and an amazing shooter, scorer, defender, and Bojan Bogdanovic. This trade would seriously put Brooklyn in the conversation for a championship title. This trade would also be good for the Charlotte Hornets, because they would be getting some young players with long and cheaper contracts, because Charlotte might be facing some financial issues if they don't make some moves during this trade deadline. And the Pistons get a great shooter in Joe Harris, who will fit in well with Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey. They also get a great young player, PJ Washington, who would be a great addition to any team because of his versatility. And Cam Thomas would also fit in great with Detroit, providing some scoring off the bench. Also, Detroit should be getting the most valuable draft pick that would be in his trade, most likely from Brooklyn. And the last trade that we are going to be mentioning in this video is between the Pelicans and the Heat, where New Orleans gets Duncan Robinson and Miami gets Devontae Graham, plus Jackson Hayes. This would be a good trade for both teams, because the Pelicans would add a wing who can stretch the floor for Zion, Ingram, and Jonas Valanciunas. Also, the Pelicans have too many centers, and Devontae Graham is not getting much playing time as well. On the flip side, Miami would be getting a solid athletic center in Jackson Hayes, which is one of the main things they are looking for this trade deadline. And Devontae Graham is going to be a good backup point guard to Kyle Lowry as well, with his scoring abilities coming off the bench. So, in conclusion, I think these are the 5 most important and realistic trades that should happen before